Tiny SUVs seem to be taking over, but are they a good choice? We talk about that, car insurance, and choosing between a Subaru Outback and a Volkswagen Golf Sport Wagon next on Talking Cars. Hi everybody, and welcome to Talking Cars with Consumer Reports. I'm Tom Muchler.
I'm Jake Fisher.
I'm Gabe Shanhar.
You know, car companies, they want to fill every possible market niche that is out there. So in the last 18 months, we've seen a glut of tiny SUVs. But Gabe, who do these cars make sense for, and do they make sense for anybody?
Well, you're absolutely right. We're going to see SUVs filling every niche and every class. And actually, my prediction is that they're going to continue to eat into the sedan portion. I mean, I think the sedan might be pretty soon an endangered species because these tiny SUVs are right smack on top of compact sedans in terms of price and are competing on the same customers. Exactly. So, I mean, if you're considering a Civic, you're going to see a Honda HR-V in the showroom. And I bet you that most people are going to like the, I get all-wheel drive, I get like to sit a little higher. I like that. So, you know, it kind of makes sense from a marketing standpoint.
Now, when those people are going rah in the showroom looking at the HR-V, what are they giving up? What are you missing? Is a tiny SUV a good choice?
Well, I mean, look,
how many questions can I ask at once?
Let me start with question 7, and I'll go back. Now, I mean, look, Gabe's right. I mean, they actually offer a lot more than sedans. They do. And the thing is that...
And a lot less.
And a lot less.
But
so I mean, look, I'll work that in. But, I mean, the point is that, I mean, people like me for years have been like, hatchbacks, wagons, they make more sense, they're more functional. And, you know, really in this country, it's been, you know, other places, I mean, Europe, they're into liftbacks and hatchbacks and four-door wagons and all these things, and we haven't seen them. You know, we were just talking about at lunch about, oh, remember the Honda Accord wagon? Wasn't that nice? And now it's this crazy
That's what our
cross-door
lunchtime
stupid-
conversation is about, Accord and Camry wagons.
Oh, it's a lot of fun.
Right.
So, but it's like now they've figured it out. Okay, now there are four-door hatchbacks. They're a little taller and they have optional all-wheel drive, and the highness actually is a nice thing too, because you actually package a little bit better and you can have that better vantage point when you're surrounded by F-150s as you are wherever you drive in America.
So they figured out a way to make the American public that hates hatchbacks
drive a
accept
four-door
hatchbacks.
hatchback, exactly.
Yes.
And that's what they are. I mean, these are not trucks by any means. These are based off of small cars. And when you look at it compared to a Civic, you look at the HR-V or one of these other ones, they are offering you more. Now, the truth is about the execution. Doesn't mean they're a good car if they're in this new body style. Some are, some aren't. And it's kind of a problem to go and say, I will buy that car because it's the package that I want, because some of them are really not that good.
Gabe?
Well, first let me clarify one thing. It's not only the American public. This is a worldwide fashion phenomenon. I mean,
yeah, but I mean, the
SUVs,
worldwide public, like we said,
Right.
were more willing to buy normal hatchbacks before they became puffed up.
Well, and now they've gotten with the program, and they also like
That's
SUVs.
true. We've corrupted
but
them.
SUVs that are a little have a smaller footprint, get better fuel economy. But now to the offering less point, these are usually based on a subcompact rather than a regular small sedan. So in this case, a Fit or Chevy Sonic.
So in this case, the HR-V is based on a Fit rather
Right.
than a Civic.
Exactly.
The
So
Chevy Trax is based on a Sonic rather than a Cruise.
Right. So it's more of a budget kind of a car. It's there's less sound insulation in it. You know, the ride comfort is kind of lousy, and there are other sacrifices. But to the consumer, what matters more? All-wheel drive and sitting high, or a little more refinement if you have that kind of developed palate.
So some are good, some are bad.
Well, yeah, it's all, and Gabe's right, is the bones of these tiny SUVs are built off of one step lower, and that is absolutely correct. And some of those vehicles have been built around this price point. They're trying to make these cars cheap among everything else, and they're developing these cars globally for different markets that we're trying to hit that low price point. So now you're building this SUV off of this car that might be great in the third world or whatever it is, but it doesn't have the sound ending.
Or it's okay in the first world, but it's selling for $17,000
or $14,000,
Yeah.
depending on what it is. Yeah, but it's just one step away. So. Whereas the traditional small SUVs that we see, the CR-Vs and whatever, they're kind of more on the Civics. But what's interesting is they're going to be cross-shopped amount. It's going to be a Civic or an HR-V. It really is, because that's what's sharing those prices. And you might get the functionality, but you're going to lose refinement. Not that the Civic is a super refined car, but you are going to take a step back.
Right. But I think you hit on something very crucial here, is that it's all about, a lot of this is about price. Now we have a Honda HR-V LX parked behind us. That car is approximately 22.5, something like that. Yeah. On the other side of the studio, we have a Chevy Trax. But at 26 grand for a Chevy Trax, you could buy a Subaru Forester that's much nicer for 26.5. You can buy a CR-V that's really nice for 27.5.
Absolutely, yeah. You're really creeping into the mainstream small SUV with those competitors you just mentioned. And so for 22, you're absolutely right. You're going to put up with harsh ride and noisy cabin, but for 26,000, you may not.
Right. Let's talk about the individual cars. We've tested a Jeep Renegade, which we talked about on an earlier show. We tested the Honda HR-V. We tested a Chevy Trax. How do they compare?
Well, first of all, just going back to what you're talking about in terms of an actual small SUV, none of them compare to a Forester.
Right.
None of them compare to a CR-V, a RAV4. These vehicles are really a completely different, they're very mature vehicles, right? We've seen so many generations of these cars.
A small SUV is very mature.
Small SUVs are just really quite mature. You look at a Forester, it's quiet, it's refined, it drives nice, it's roomy, the seats are comfortable, it gets decent fuel economy, right on par with these guys. So any one of these really is in a different class in terms of that refinement and all those pieces of the puzzle. When you get into these, none of them are really driving that nice. Some are not as bad as others. And I'll say the HR-V is a car you could put up with, again, at that $22,000 price point. The Trax is really disappointing.
Right.
I'm looking at this thing and it's got 70 series tires. I thought we got rid of those.
It still doesn't ride well.
In the 80s, It doesn't ride well. It's not comfortable inside. It doesn't have the seats. Everything about it feels really cheap.
It's noisy, it's slow, it's cheap inside.
Actually, we got a question on Twitter about this from Steve Beer, one of our super fans.
Our friends.
Yeah, he's one of our super fans. He asked, so I'm curious, the Trax and the Buick Encore are for all intents the same car, yet the Encore scores markedly higher. Why?
Yeah, it's true. They share the same platform. They are kind of clones of one another, but the Buick has more sound insulation. And it has a much better fit and finish, and those two things alone are going to make a different.
The ride tuning
score.
is tremendously better.
Yes.
It doesn't have the annoying touchsure radio that the Trax has. There's a lot.
Has a pretty good infotainment system, the MyLink.
It's also that when you put $5,000 more into a car at this price range, that can matter a lot.
Yeah.
Especially when you're starting on a cheap platform. So, what about the Renegade?
Well, the Renegade is, this is one of these very long story type cars. If you blindly look at it and you look at the ride and the handling and what you get for the money, it's not good.
Right.
What the Renegade has going for it, which these guys quite honestly don't, is the thing looks really cute. The thing looks great. It's one of these cars that just brings a smile to your face because you're driving this little cute Jeep. It used to be, we talk about the cute Utes. That is the quintessential cute Ute.
Right.
So there's something very fun about it, but it's something that doesn't come out in the numbers when you really put measurements on the car.
Yeah, the Renegade is, I call it an exercise in branding. The thing is it looks like a Jeep, and it's got like Jeep things all over it, since 1941 here, and the grill and the headlights on every corner of the car has something that's a branding opportunity for Jeep. And that has a feel-good factor because, hey, I'm driving a Jeep, it's not that expensive, I'm getting decent fuel economy, and it just oozes this character. But when you really look at it objectively, it falls apart.
Yeah, it oozes something that really is not that enjoyable to drive.
Right.
I mean, that powertrain, that 2.4 liter and that 9-speed do not like each other.
Not at all.
Actually, I don't think the 2.4 likes anybody.
And the idle vibration and the ride quality, it's not a happy package.
Speaking of happy packages,
Oh.
there's a nice, there's a bad segue and a good segue, but the CX-3 is going to be the dark horse
the Mazda
there.
CX-3 is going to be the interesting one here.
Yeah, and you know, we've driven it. We haven't formally tested it, but wow, I mean, it really looks impressive, and I think it's, you know, my guess is it's going to be like, oh, it is possible to make a tiny SUV really good.
Right, and the CX-3 is also aggressively priced in that you can get one with a nice level of equipment for $25,000. So it's avoiding the problems of the Trax and the Renegade. We'll see if it can beat out the HR-V.
Yeah, it wasn't available to buy early enough for this test, but yeah, we'll get back to everybody on the CX-3.
Yeah, and
I hold a lot of hope.
Yeah, because I do not look forward to driving. You know, at the end of the day, if these cars' key is on the board, I do not look forward to driving any of them.
Sure, that goes without saying.
I look forward to getting us getting our CX-3. Next topic is car insurance. It's a necessary evil with owning a car, and it's easy to think that you understand how your insurance premium is calculated. But Consumer Reports has done a ton of research into this, and it's not as clear as you might think, is it?
Yeah, we've looked at a ridiculous amount of actual insurance quotes, and it is a lot of surprising things that we found out. And it's not all about how you drive, which you'd think it would be.
You'd hope so.
And so we have a whole package. It's on CRO, and it's interactive, and you could look at your state. And I was just looking at some of the stuff myself, and you know, we're here in Connecticut, and in Connecticut, your rates are actually impacted worse if you have bad credit rather than actually having a DWI. So here, if you had a DWI, they'll raise your rates. But if you have bad credit, it'll really raise your rate. And you'd think that having a DWI would be a better indicator of
how you're
your
actually going to
risk
drive a
and
car.
how you're going to drive. Apparently not. But then, of course, you go across the state border to Massachusetts. They don't look at your credit history. So it's almost like the Wild West. I mean, it's really not very regulated. It's this black box. I mean, you go to, other countries, they're like, oh, this is insurance grade number 32 or whatever it is. We don't have that. It's almost like under the whim of these insurance companies.
No, it's a very state-by-state system. A lot of states have fairly lax standards. There are a handful of states, California, Massachusetts, to some extent Florida, New York, Texas, Hawaii, have more regulation than others. But it's very loose, and black box is the perfect way to put it, because these companies are using credit information to calculate your score, but they're not exactly using your credit score. It's other variables of it that nobody knows. And it's all it's stuff, they have so much data these days. A company can figure out, are you more likely to protest a premium increase or not? And if they think you're a chump, like I probably am, if they think you're a chump and you're more likely to take the premium increase, they'll just fold it in.
Yeah, my cell phone carrier does the same kind of thing.
Well, but they know if you've stuck with your cell phone carrier. They know what cable company you have.
Oh,
it's
the least transparent business in the world, I think. But the way we did it with the interactive site, and for me, it's great timing because teen driver insurance, it's a really big thing.
That was another big point that was made in the story, is that it boils down to shop around, because there can be huge differences between companies. You also have to keep track of your credit score, because that plays such a big part of this too. We have a ton of information online. Go to consumerreports.org/fixcarinsurance. We have a lot of great information there. And now moving on to reader questions. You know, it's funny because among my group of friends, there's like a pair of cars that winds up getting mentioned all the time that people cross shop. And we got that same question, so I really want to cover that because we hear about this a lot. From Anonymous Left, I'm in the market for a new car and I need your help deciding between the Golf Sport Wagon TDI or TSI versus the 2016 Subaru Outback with the Boxer 6 with eyesight. I'm a 30-year-old professional with a 90-pound dog. Our other car is a manual transmission 2013 BMW 128 I Convertible. That's a nice car. What's important? Reliability, planning to keep the car for 10 years or more, driving dynamics, comfort, and the future prospect of kids. The practical side of my brain says Outback, but it just screams old man car, while the not so reasonable side of my brain says Golf Sport Wagon. Given that this will be a $35,000 plus purchase with long-term use, I'm really hoping for some CR advice here. I can't seem to get over the value proposition offered by the Subaru Outback. Outback or Golf Sport Wagon?
Well, the Outback makes all the sense in the world.
Doesn't it though?
It does. But is it exciting? Absolutely not.
No. Is the Golf Sport Wagon exciting?
It is more exciting.
Exciting-er.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. Whether you get the TSI or the diesel TDI. One thing to note, though, that for 16, the Volkswagen is going to have a suite of active safety things that are going to be what he's looking for with the eyesight of the Subaru. So that's something to keep in mind. But the kind of person that he is, my hunch is that he's going to be happier with a Golf wagon. No, Outback, no disrespect to the Outback.
Your thoughts?
This is easy. Judging by the other car he has in his garage, he needs to get the Volkswagen. The Outback's a practical car, but it's not a lot of fun to drive. The Sport Wagon is. That's a good time.
I'm actually going to argue for the Outback, and then I'm going to completely deny myself and argue against it. So enjoy this.
Here we go.
Look, the Outback is a lot of car for the money. I mean, you get a lot of safety features. There's a lot of room. The six-cylinder makes it a much more civilized car. The Golf is a little small in the back seat. That said, 10 years, can I be honest? I'm not going with either one of these. I'm just not. If your goal is long-term ownership, I'm not going to go with an Outback that we talked about in the last show, may have oil consumption problems, has a CVT, which requires more service. Subarus typically wind up having head gasket problems. Maybe they fix that, maybe not, but 6, 7, 8 years down the road, those issues crop up. Volkswagen's long-term reliability is not really it's a thing of legend in a bad sense. I mean, if I wanted to buy something for 10 years or more, I'm going to get a RAV4. I'm going to get a Mazda CX-5. I'm going to get something with a fairly normal 4-cylinder engine and a fairly normal 6-speed automatic.
Those are legitimate alternatives, and yeah, sure.
Yeah, actually, the CX-5 is that's a good suggestion for this person. I mean, it's a pretty fun vehicle to drive. It's got lots of utility. The 90-pound dog will fit there.
Mm-hmm. Actually, you're right, because for this amount of money, you're going to get a CX-5. You can get all the safety gizmos. It's been reliable. It's very fuel efficient. It's fun to drive. It is giving up, I know what you're going to say. It's giving up on noise insulation, especially compared to the Golf. But it is an option. So that is going to wrap it up for this episode of Talking Cars. As always, we thank you for listening, and we'll see you next time.